probably a bit confused right now. I broke the glass. It's all come back to me.
This... What is this?
That's my ship.
What?
Let me take it from the top. Hello, I'm the Doctor.
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always, I am joined with...
Hello, it's Scott, and yeah, we are here today to hate more Chibnall stuff. Yay!
Maybe we'll love it. Maybe we'll love it. Like, I know I've watched the episode again, and I wasn't a huge fan of it as much. Definitely did not like it as much as I liked it the first time, but maybe watching it again and critiquing it scene by scene will make me love it even more. I'm sure that'll happen. This week we are, of course, looking at Fugitive of the Judoon, the final stop in our chronological look through Doctor Who before we get to fucking brand new Doctor Who. Isn't that insane? We are so close to New Who being here now. It doesn't feel real, and we still don't have a release date for November, and it's messing with our schedule because we don't know what to do, which is really fun. Russell, please fix that. Also, I really want it to be out because all of the rumors and quote-unquote story leaks that keep happening are all atrocious. They're all really bad. And if any of them are true, I don't think I want to be a fan of Doctor Who anymore.
I think I trust Russell enough to not do what the leaks are proposing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Have some faith,
so.
My friend.
I hope so. Or I hope that they're like missing so much context that would make them good. You know, maybe it's just like boiled down and simplified and presented and written in a way that it makes it sound not good when on TV it's actually entertaining. Who knows? I don't know. I just hope it's good. But this week we are, as I said, looking at Fugitive of the Judoon, which aired on the 26th of January 2020.
Great year.
Was a really uneventful year, I think. Which was a Sunday, and somehow 3 years, 8 months, and 17 days ago at the time of me writing this, which I think is like 5 days or so out of date. So like 3 years and 8 months ago. The things that happened on this day: the 62nd Grammy Awards. Billie Eilish wins 5 Grammys, including Album, Record, and Song of the Year, which is staggering to me because I don't think I've listened to a single one of her songs. I am not in touch. I am not in touch with music.
You've not heard Bad Guy?
Oh, I've heard the hook. I've not heard the whole song.
Right.
I've heard the hook.
I mean, the whole song is the hook.
This is also the day that LA Lakers basketball legend Kobe Bryant dies in a helicopter crash in foggy conditions in the hills above Calabasas, Southern California. He was considered one of the greatest players in the game's history. I only knew him because of the memes. The Kobe,
same.
when you throw something into a bin. Which, I mean, that just kind of, I think, shows how much of a good basketball player he was when, like, his name is a meme to the point where someone like me who knows zero things about basketball is aware of who he is. And he never got to see Fugitive of the Judoon. So equally sad.
I mean, depends what time
he.
I guess
That's true. Maybe he's maybe that's what caused it. The helicopter crash.
I remember that vividly. That's the downfall. That's when everything started going downhill in like 2020. First his death, and then COVID. You started hearing more and more about COVID. Surely it will never come here, right? Surely we'll never be in lockdown or anything like that. Surely.
No, it'll last like a day. It'll be like a day. It's just the cold. At the time, the US president was one Donald Trump, yuck, and the UK Prime Minister was one Boris Johnson, also yuck. Isn't it nice that at least Boris Johnson is gone basically forever. Trump is still kicking about, but he's like irrelevant. I think it's all fluster and noise. It's not going to actually build to anything. So,
I mean,
that's he's gone. He's gone.
It's
We're
like
in a good time.
It's the same thing we said in 2016. Oh, it's all fluster and noise. It'll never come to anything. Holy shit, he got elected president. What the fuck?
But I think that the difference was like that was like a time when he was never president. We're now in a time where he was president, and everybody was like, "Whoops." And they did the whoops. We're over the whoops. They're gonna do fluster. There'll be a big election, but he'll still lose. It doesn't matter. Fucking, who gives a shit? The real important question, besides who was leading what world country at the time, is what was number one at the box office. That's what really matters. What movie was raking in all that money?
Okay, so it's not Sonic that opens up in February, because that's the last time we covered a series.
One of the highest grossing movies of the year.
Yep.
One of the highest grossing movies of the year.
It's not Birds of Prey, because that's another week off. And I know Doolittle came out around this time. Do you remember Doolittle?
Doolittle was bad. Nobody saw it. That's
Doolittle, more like Doolittle at the box office, am I right?
Wow, fuck. Shit, you destroyed that movie from 3 years ago that no one remembers.
Doesn't the movie end with Robert Downey Jr.
He gets a big fart. He gets a big fart in his face. Yeah.
He shoves his hand up a dragon anus to get a bagpipe. Good stuff.
Yeah.
God, I think that's all the movies I remember from 2020, to be honest with you.
2020 was a surprisingly decent enough year for movies, really. For as little that came out, there was some bangers that did come out. I didn't see what was number one at the box office. I can give you some hints. It stars Will Smith.
Is it the movie where he's a bird? He's a spy bird?
Oh, Christ, I forgot that was even a thing. No, it was not that.
Okay.
It's a sequel.
Will Smith sequel. God, I can't think.
It's an iconic series with a catchy theme song. You got to think what they're gonna do. What they're gonna do? It can't be Men in Black for you. No.
Oh, Bad Boys. Bad Boys.
There you go. Bad Boys for Life, which is not a movie I've seen. The only Bad Boys movie I've seen is Bad Boys 2.
I've only seen Bad Boys 1, so...
Oh, wow. Interesting. 2020 was an interesting year for movies.
But the thing that annoys me about Bad Boys for Life is that should have been the title for a fourth movie. You know?
Yeah.
Turn that 4 into a 4.
Should have been the number 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
And life should be spelt with a Y. The 2020 was an interesting year. In January, you had Rise of Skywalker at the box office, followed shortly by 1917, and then Bad Boys for Life. Birds of Prey took over after Bad Boys for Life for a week before Sonic came out. This was also the year we got The Invisible Man in theaters, and Onward. Remember that Pixar movie? It's all right.
Yeah, it's fine.
There was also Unhinged, the hit classic, The New Mutants, Tenet, The Warren Grandpa, Honest Thief, a bunch of other crappy movies. The Croods sequel that nobody saw. You remember they made a sequel to The Croods? Apparently that made a lot of money. And then Monster Hunter and Wonder Woman 1984. What a terrible year. And there's huge gaps on Wikipedia here from March until August because the box office was suspended due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I don't know what that is. That doesn't sound real. Never heard of it before.
It is Unhinged, the movie where Russell Crowe is in a car and tries to murder people.
It sounds amazing if it is. Unhinged movie.
No, maybe Unhinged is a movie
Russell
about the girl.
Crowe. Unhinged is a 2020 American action thriller film directed by Derek Bort from a screenplay by Carl Ellsworth. Film stars Russell Crowe. It tells the story of a young woman who is terrorized by a seemingly mentally ill stranger following a road rage incident. Unhinged was theatrically released, blah, 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 blah. Interesting. I've never heard of that movie.
I just remember the trailer.
It's got a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's not too bad.
Russell Crowe makes it for a compulsively watchable villain, but Unhinged lacks enough intelligence or depth to get sufficient mileage out of its pulpy premise. I don't know. 77% audience score, 48% critics, so it's like a mid movie. You know, solid 3 out of stars on Letterboxd. That's what I would give it without watching it. 3 stars. I'll just lie. But that's all I've got for the On This Day segment. Why don't you take us into what I'm sure is a very lengthy, well-detailed, and researched writer's corner for Fugitive of the Judoon?
There's literally nothing to talk about this episode, I'm afraid. The reason why we're doing this is I usually try to pick the best ones of the bunch of each Doctor, and in this case, it just turns out to be this is the best one that we haven't covered yet.
It was like, you know, we didn't want to cover Flux because Flux was so recent, you know, and we did a bunch of episodes on Flux when it aired, so we want to give that at least some breathing time before we look at it again. And when Series 12 was airing, we were talking about starting the podcast. We hadn't actually started it yet, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I think so.
Because we were definitely messaging about Doctor Who at this time, because like you went back and looked at our DMs for this episode, and you're relatively positive. I'm much more positive about it than you are. That's because I'm forever wanting Chibnall to be better than he is. So like that's why it's interesting to come back to it, because this in memory was a decent episode, and I remember like people being positive about it. I'm actually while you continue reading, I'm going to pull up the Doctor Who forums. I want to see what people thought.
Yeah, on IMDb it has a 7.6 out of 10, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in terms of like the Jodie Whittaker era, I think that's the best one, you know. Like I think the best episode has like an 8, you know. And we did consider doing Power of the Doctor for a while, but we just did that last year, and I think our opinions would change in that episode as well. But again, I think it's better to have some breathing room on that story. So yeah, Fugitive of the Judoon it is.
I feel like Power of the Doctor was a fun episode. You know,
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, like even when it aired, I wasn't like, this is the most compelling episode of Doctor Who ever, but it's like, this is silly and fun, and I like silly and fun, especially because that's like the best that we can get with Jodie stuff. Hang on, I have to reset my password for
nice.
the Doctor Who forums.
I love having to reset passwords. You know, on IMDb you get people saying, finally a piece of engaging, innovative and intriguing storytelling after so many episodes of shouting at the screen and yelling at a series that had vanished, disappeared and had gone, where everything that shined, sparkled, glittered, had been solid and unshone. Why is he writing poetry? I don't know. Somebody else writes, this was massive. I didn't expect this episode to be that good and have so many surprises and twists. Wow, finally, Chibs. By the way, who else thinks this episode was secretly written by Moffat?
I got it. Okay, so Fugitive of the Judoon, rate or review, good or bad. This is across when it aired, 2,000 votes on Gallifrey base. It's a 1 to 10 scale. What do you think it scored?
1 to 10 scale, I would say 8.
8? You would be wrong. It got a 9 out of 10 with 10 out of 10 in second place. 10 out of 10 was in second place. 8 was in third, with 29% going for 9, 26% going for 10, and 21% going for 8. And then 7% for 7 and 5% for 1. Those 5%, maybe they're feeling vindicated right now. That is interesting. I want to try and find some interesting. Here's Almost Perfect. Some really great ideas and the long overdue return of Captain Jack. I really hope the payoff for the plotline is worth it, though. Chibnall has form for this. It would have been 10 out of 10, but -1 for the Sakaran companion speech at the end, which almost destroyed the atmosphere. Finally, a totally awesome episode. Bloody hell, that was hell of a ride. What? Jesus Christ. That was every kind of awesome. Just when I thought the show was on its last legs, it gives us that. And that's the Doctor I want. Baffling and brilliant. 10. The series is going from strength to strength. The people were People were loving this episode. Wow, a Chris Chibnall episode getting me excited for the arc and an exciting trolling of a certain section of the fan base. I really enjoyed this as an episode, the Chibnall era hitting those RTD marks way better than it ever has. But boy, my brain is racing at how much the twist doesn't make sense with what we know. But who cares? I'm intrigued. Let's keep going. So this is I like a perfect capsule of before the Timeless Child reveal, I think. Yeah. When everybody was coming up with their own theories and their own what's Chibnall planning, what's the whole idea here. And then when the Timeless Child aired and the turn happened, you know, where it was, oh wait, it's bad. And then Flux. Although, like, I don't know, there's always been a loud vocal part of the Jodie era being like, hey, it's been bad since the start, which I kind of agree with at this point, but I was part of this group. I was part of this. Yeah. I was part of this. Like, it's good. I rated this 9 out of 10 as well at the time.
Did you?
When I was, yeah, I did. Yeah, I was part of that vote. Vote.
Yeah, so I've got some of our messages up when we talked about it on the 28th of January 2020. I guess you took a few days to actually watch this. You said, genuinely the best Jodie episode ever. I said, I think it's in her top 3. And you said, Nat was flat out her best one.
Yeah, I stand by it.
One of my critiques was all the companions do is stand around, ask some questions, get split up from the Doctor, get exposition delivered to them, then they deliver that exposition to the Doctor, the end. And you're like, get rid of all the companions except for Graham. You keep Graham. You really love Graham.
I stand by that as well. He's the best one. Before Dan came, Graham was the best one. I think it goes to show, like, how easy it is to excite Doctor Who fans. Like, you know, dangle, like, ooh, here's maybe a twist happening, and we will gobble it up like the rabid people that we are, and we will turn it into something else, and we will come up with our own fan theories, and we'll excite ourselves about it. And, like, this is one of the things that I said, like, when Flux was coming out, and because I was so annoyed with the Timeless Child finale, and then when Flux was coming out, I was like, oh, god damn it, I'm excited again. You know, it's like I can't help myself. Like, whenever Doctor Who comes out, I'm like, yay. Like,
yeah, I encourage our listeners to go back to our review of the Halloween Apocalypse and just listen to how optimistic we were about the season that was ahead of us, and then immediately follow it up with whatever the last episode was called.
The last episode was called Doctor Who Flux Was Bad.
Yeah, that's a contrast. That's such a contrast. We were so optimistic, weren't we?
We were, which is, I don't know if it's jaded me, you know, because I'm excited about the 60th anniversary, but there's a little voice in my head that's being like, no, it's going to be bad, shut up. Don't get excited.
You can't help not get excited about Doctor Who. It's impossible to not get excited. This episode was written by Chris Chibnall and Vinay Patel. Vinay Patel was a British Indian screenwriter born in 1986, and prior to Doctor Who he wrote the TV movie Murdered by My Father and an episode of The Good Karma Hospital, and he also wrote the episode that we were thinking of covering this episode, called The Demons of the Punjab, which was probably Jodie's second best episode, just below the Frankenstein episode, I think. Such a great episode. I love that episode so much.
Yeah, Demons of the Punjab is good. That's a fun episode. Rosa was up there as well, but it has the time-traveling Nazi that does nothing.
But you know, thinking about Demons of the Punjab, I think it's impossible for two white men to talk about it without doing research, really. Because it's a subject I know nothing about.
Excuse me, I don't know. I think two white guys living in the UK talking about India and Pakistan is there's a historical precedent for that to happen. Like,
so Vinay Patel is currently writing a Netflix show called One Day, which is based on the book that follows
Oh my god! No way! I'm in that show.
Are you? Okay.
I'm in that show. I got cast in that show last summer. You will see me in that show.
Okay, so it's based on the book that follows two protagonists on St. Swithin's Day over 20 years period. That's interesting. That's wild. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
When is it coming out? Because I guess it's been a while since it was filmed.
I assume it's out next year. Because when they shot it in the summer, we were doing episode 1, and I think it's like 8 episodes or something like that. But like it's throughout, as you said, across different time periods, and we were in the 80s, and they're also in different locations. So like they were filming all around the world. So big shoot. It was a very big shoot. But yeah, no, I should be. Unless they cut me, I am in episode 1 of that show. Like.
Okay, I'll keep my eye out. I guess. Who watches One Day coming to you soon? I guess. But yeah, he doesn't seem to write much else aside from those few things. But you know, Chris Chibnall. We know who Chris Chibnall is. We don't have to go into that either. The original story plan was one of the first planned for the Jodie Whittaker era of Doctor Who, as far back as March 2016, apparently. And we don't know much about what this early version of the script would look like. It would have included scenes in a Spanish vineyard and a Zumba class, apparently, which doesn't give us much information at all. Just reminds me of fucking the two doctors. Not fucking the two doctors, but the two doctors the episode.
Yeah.
Later drafts of this story were titled Semper Fidelis, the motto of Exeter, where it was originally set, and Ruth would have been a ghost tour guide in her late 50s with a son called Tony, who would be revealed as a future Doctor, and a member of her warrior squad, respectively. Yeah, so that's an interesting... A future version of the Doctor was considered at some point, but I guess Chibnall changed his mind.
Changed it to a past version instead of a future version.
I don't know which one I prefer.
I think I prefer a future version, but I don't know. The future version sets you up where it's like, will we ever see this Doctor on screen then? You know, and if you don't, then it's like, well, then when does this Doctor happen? And then like, presumably they would just get Big Finish spin-offs, much like what has happened with the Fugitive Doctor. Setting it as the past Doctor, you get your whole Timeless Child shenanigans. So I guess I guess that's the better of the two. I don't know.
I mean,
It falls into the next Doctor problem, doesn't it? The episode, The Next Doctor. Right.
And we also already have a future version of the Doctor called the Valeyard, and also the Curator. There's so many future versions of the Doctor now. There's 2 Curators, for God's sake. The Valeyard is like between the 12th and final regeneration, so who knows when that's set. There's too many Doctors, dude.
Well, we might be getting more if you believe the rumors.
But anyway, that's a pretty lengthy intro. Do you want to talk about A Fugitive of the Judoon?
Not particularly. Yes, let us begin breaking down this episode, shall we? Goddamn.
Hi. Struggling with this. Can you just...
No, I can't. Not right now. No time. Just stand there and don't ask questions. Sorry you got caught up in all this, but if Gat is half the operative she used to be, she's already figured out where we are, and we need to be ready, and we're not.
Stop. Who's Gat? And who are you, really? Truly?
I told you, love, I'm the Doctor.
You can't be.
Yeah, why's that?
Because I'm the Doctor.
You have got to be kidding me. Really?
Yes, really.
Since when?
Since forever.
And how did I end up like that? All rainbows and trousers that don't reach.
What? No. How did I end up like you?
You don't. You're in my future, not the other way around.
I've never been anything like you. Trust me, I'd remember, especially that shirt.
So would I if I'd ever been you, which I haven't.
What? That's not possible. Unless it is. But what would that mean? Doesn't make sense. Stop doing that!
Same brain.
The episode begins as most Jodie episodes do, up until I think Flux, without a cold open and just straight into the credits, which is sad. It fills me with sadness still. Like for me, and like I love the cold open because it gets me excited and engaged with the episode. When the episode just starts with the relatively boring intro credits for Jodie's era, I'm like checked out immediately. It's no fun. It's no fun.
I feel like the episode should just start with Ruth. Ruth going around, and then all of a sudden the Judoon come, and then it's cold intro. It's the intro. You don't need, and also just don't show the Doctor immediately like we do in this episode.
There's
make us think we're watching the wrong show or something, because this opening feels like we're watching the wrong show, but it doesn't work because we have the intro immediately.
It's just a problem that Jodie's era had throughout most of it until Chibnall decided to arbitrarily change his mind when Flux came about, and he was like, actually, I like cold opens now. I don't know. I feel like not having a cold open like summarizes so much that's wrong with the Chibnall era. It's just off. There's just something not quite right about it, and this is one of those things.
I mean, most of the time, I honestly don't give a shit about a cold open, but this is one of the rare episodes I'm thinking, hey, this episode kind of needs a cold open, because it feels wrong.
I bet if you went back and watched every episode of Jodie's run, you'd be like, oh, this could be the cold open. Oh, this could be the cold open.
Oh, yeah, because we did the same thing with the Frankenstein episode. Like, it opens up with the intro, and then it should have opened up with a cold open where Jodie and everyone is knocking on the door, and they're like, "Hey, hello, we're here,"
Yeah,
I think we said the same thing that episode.
Probably. We're just repeat the same points over and over again. But this episode opens up into its first scene with this lady Ruth having her breakfast. We first see her watch, which you so keenly pointed out, has a little TARDIS light as the time adjuster. It's got TARDIS blue.
And it's also box shaped.
The thing. It's also box shaped like a TARDIS, which is some fantastically cute foreshadowing that I absolutely did not pick up on the first time I watched this episode. It's so wonderfully subtle, and there's a few more little subtle bits of set design in this episode where it's like, oh, you did that perfectly until they absolutely screw the ball at the end.
It's one of those things where I'm watching it and I haven't seen anybody else comment on the fact that it looks like the TARDIS at all, or the hexagon mirror that the roof looks into later on, because it obviously Jodie's TARDIS is Hexagon City, But I have never seen anyone comment on this to the point where I'm like, am I just crazy? Am I just seeing things?
No,
it feels like something that people would talk about.
True, but like, I don't know if anybody picked up on it at the time because everybody was so flabbergasted at the twist, and nobody went back to go through the episode in great detail that I was following anyway, and nobody online in like the wider like Twitter space or things like that were really talking about it. Everybody was just talking about that reveal and what it could mean. And then after The Timeless Child aired, I don't think anybody wants to revisit this episode, so I don't think anybody's ever thought about this episode again since it came out. But it's a really cute little detail that I think deserves to be pointed out because it's wonderful. It's such a wonderful little piece of design and thought that went into establishing that this is the Doctor even without us knowing it. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And Mafi, do you want to know another cute little detail? So we quickly find out that Ruth is celebrating her birthday in this episode. I'm not sure if it's mentioned in the episode itself or it's stated somewhere else, but apparently it's her 44th birthday. This episode aired 44 years and 2 days after The Brain of Morbius, where we found out about it's hinted at where the Doctor has past incarnations. So her 44th birthday coincides with The Brain of Morbius. Coincidence or?
I don't know. I feel like that's a hard thing to make happen on purpose.
Yes.
But it could also be a thing that they realized what the air date was, and then they went, "Ooh, let's go back and make it her 44th birthday instead of her 52nd or something." Because like you can just make that number whatever. So like they could have retroactively made it on purpose, which is cool if they did, because that's another really fun little detail. That's cute. That is cute. But we discover Ruth has got a boyfriend/husband/partner guy who's a little bit suspicious in a definitely subtle way. We then see Ruth on her day-to-day, and she's like a ball of positivity, high-fiving people and being all happy, and I hate her. What an awful person. And we find out she's also a tour guide, but not a very successful one, as nobody wants to hear anything she has to say, except for one lady who's like, "Go on, tell me something about this building then." And then Ruth tells her something about the building, and she's like, that was boring. And then she's like, "And also Harry Potter." And the lady's like, "Oh." And then Chibnall's like, "And that's commentary on how society is now." It's bad.
we were just talking about this. An awful lot of weird Harry Potter references in Chibnall episodes, because the next episode Captain Jack appears in, Jodie Whittaker reads Harry Potter aloud to herself. And it feels weird because 2020, we were just beginning to be aware that something was off about J.K. Rowling.
I feel like we knew for years before 2020. I feel like she had been openly transphobic since at least 2016, 2017. I feel like everybody knew. Not that JK was a bit especially when they referenced it in the episode. I was like, what are we doing? Why are we talking about JK Rowling still?
From what I remember about in 2020, she was only at the stage of mildly hinting at it. She wasn't explicitly transphobic at that point. But yeah, she was we definitely knew something was up. And also Ruth is a tour guide in Gloucester, which is another funny name in England. So many funny names in England.
I'll give Chibnall one credit. He took Doctor Who out of London, which was nice. Not every alien invasion happens in London. They still all happen in England, but they're not all in London. So, it's a step in the right direction.
Have a fucking season set in Aberdeen. How great would that be? And actually film it in Aberdeen, not Cardiff.
Yeah, film it in Aberdeen. That way we can try and get jobs on the set. But Ruth then goes into a cafe where she meets, absolutely no contest, the worst character that Chibnall has ever written. This dude sucks.
Oh god, yes. What's the name of the conspiracy guy in the episode Rose again?
Oh, Christ.
I thought his name was Craig, but that's the name of James Corden's character.
Oh, Auton episode Conspiracy Man. Doctor Who.
Clive.
Clive Finch. I can't believe that actually got me a result. Amazing. Clive Finch.
But it feels like it's supposed to be a Clive type character, but Clive felt so real compared to this guy who's just a cartoon character, and it's just nothing to this guy.
He's a creep. He's such a creep. He's like, Ruth comes in to get like food or coffee or something, and he's like, "You should leave your boyfriend and like go out with me," and stuff like that. And then later in the episode, he like actively makes a cake saying like, "Leave your partner." Like this dude's running a business. How is he in business still? Why is Ruth giving him business? Why is she coming back to this dude? Like, what is this entire person is so toxically awful. Like, I don't understand how they exist in this world around these other people and are still functioning. Like, they're a terrible character, and I don't want to like say bad things about the actor or the performer either. He's working with what he's got, but not a good performance in this episode either from him. It's bad. It's just a stinky character.
Yeah, it goes for the performance is too like pantomimey, I would say. It doesn't feel like it's a real character in this universe. Like, Clive felt like a real character. He had a wife and child, and didn't he get murdered? He got murdered.
He does. Sad. He gets shot right in front of them. He gets shot in front of his wife and child by an Auton, and then we never see them again.
and you feel so bad for Clive, but this guy dies, and you're like, okay, what's the point of that character, man?
Honestly, when he died, I was happy. I was happy that he died. I was like, thank God this guy's gone. Yeah, I don't like him. We then also randomly cut to space real quick, where we see a giant spaceship, and on board the spaceship, the Judoon, because this episode's called Fugitive of the Judoon, so we've got to see the Judoon. And they fire a big laser, and then one of the Judoon takes off their helmet and just stares into the camera for a bit. You were like, what's the point of this scene? And I was like, it's whatever. But then, like, they do this Judoon reveal
Yep.
later on in the episode in, like, a few scenes' time. So it really does have the question of, what's the point of this reveal? Like,
Yeah, it feels like they were just trying to pad the episode. Maybe it only came in at like 14 minutes, and they're like, oh shit, we have to film 10 more minutes of scenes. Let's reuse this ship over here and just have a Judoon talk to each other, you know? There's nothing to this scene.
There really isn't. There is nothing to the scene. And speaking of scenes that have nothing in them, we then cut finally into the TARDIS where we see Jodie just kind of flicking at her console, looking kind of out of it. And we see all three companions doing what they do best, sitting down silently. And like they start talking and Jodie's like, oh, how long have you been there? And they say 20 minutes. And so for 20 minutes, they were presumably like either in their bedrooms in the TARDIS or they got picked up by Jodie because they're in the TARDIS somehow. And they just, instead of standing up and going around the console and being fun and laughing, they all sat down on the stairs and were like, let's just look at Jodie for 20 minutes, silent.
Yeah, that's my problem with the Jodie Whittaker era. Everything inside of the TARDIS, the relationship between the Doctor and the companions, just feels so lifeless. You know, like, and you know, the companions are so in the dark about what's going on with the Doctor this entire season. It feels like it's just there's no connection between the Doctor and her fam. This is the first time the Doctor calls the companions family, basically, and there's no connection with anyone.
No, there's not.
So
and, like,
weird.
I think back to the like Journey's End and stuff like that, where we see all of the companions around the TARDIS console helping out, you know, and it's like, oh my god, I love you guys. Like, we're a big, like, happy togetherness. Like, why did Jodie not have that with these people? Like, she's got enough people she could teach them, like, how to flick a little bit on the TARDIS, or, like, how to press down a button, you know, or, like, play some inspiring music if you're Graham or something, you know, like you could work together. And she says it's a very flat team structure. We're all in this together. We all work together and things like that. But they don't. They sit down and they stare at Jodie while she does everything. Like there's nothing there, and you could have had a really charming chemistry with this many companions, which is too many companions. Even Captain Jack's like, yikes. But like, you know, you could have done something interesting with it, and they just do nothing.
I don't think there's too many companions, to be honest with you, because if you go back to like an episode Boomtown, if you go back to Boomtown, you have Captain Jack, Mickey, and Rose, and the banter and the chemistry between all four of these characters are insane, and they all have something to do inside of the episode, and there's relationship moments, and there's so much great content between four of these characters in this episode. And
I think when I say there's too many companions, there's too many companions for Chibnall to write. Like you know, he's I think across the three companions they have the personality of one person, vaguely. You know, that's the issue.
The personality is someone who asks questions. What are you doing over there, Doctor?
Mean? What's going on? And the Jodie's like, I'm really upset. I'm thinking about the Master and what he showed me. And they're like, what did he show you, Doctor? And she's like, nothing. Shut up. It's personal. But then we see that that Gallifrey was destroyed again, which I've spoken about many times on this podcast. I spoke about it like roughly like not long after it happened. I spoke about just constantly. I hate it. I hate that they destroyed Gallifrey again so much. And
my problem
I hate that
is
they did nothing with it.
I don't hate it. I just don't care about it. I don't care about Gallifrey. It was
That's why
effective.
I hate it.
Yeah, it was effective when they killed off Gallifrey in like seasons 1 to 8. No, 1 to 7.
Yeah.
And then it was effective when Capaldi went out to look for Gallifrey. And that's all you need to do with Gallifrey. Just leave it alone for a little bit. You don't need to go back to it. Just leave Gallifrey alone for a bit. But
leave it alone.
destroying it again.
Maybe throw in a Time Lord every now and then to be like, oh yeah, they're still kicking about, lol. But destroying it again is it's the laziest option. It's the lamest option. It's the least inspiring option. It's the option that takes away so much character development and puts the Doctor back to what they were like in Series 1, where they're like, oh, all my people are dead. I'm so alone and I'm so angry. Like it's years of development just gone because it's like, I don't like the Time Lords though.
Yeah, and there's even a Time Lord inside of this episode, with the lady who's looking for Ruth,
And she's boring. She's really boring.
which is a shame because that actress is great in the Umbrella Academy. She's so fun in that show, and she has nothing to do
her
here.
Face. Yeah.
Yaz keeps on asking questions like, "Is that where you go? Are you out looking for him? Where do you go?" All in the span of like 4 sentences.
It's concurrent. It's back to back the same question. Yeah.
Like why? Did the editor not think, hey, this is Yaz asking the same questions 4 different times. Do we really need that, Chibnall? It's like
because it shows how upset she is, how hard she's trying to find the answer.
I just don't care about anything going on in the TARDIS. There's nothing interesting going on with the companions. At least in Series 11, the companions, I guess Ryan and Graham had the whole
Ryan and Graham are good in Series 11, yeah.
And they have nothing to do in this season. When they get written out of the Dalek episode, I just don't care. It's so weird.
Yeah.
I just don't care about anyone in this season.
Yeah, Series 12 is the beginning of the bad. Like, Series 11 is like, oh, maybe this isn't going to be great, but there's some gems in it. And then Series 12, it's like, no, we're going downhill. And then Flux, it explodes.
Yeah, I still stand by. I like Series 11. It's on the same level as, like, Series 2 or 8, where it's good enough, It's good enough. It's an average season. Every episode is decent enough. There's no really terrible episode.
Yes, there is. The Battle of Ranskor Ap Kolos.
True.
Is a really terrible episode. Like, especially as a final.
Episode.
It just so happens to be the final, so it leaves a really bad taste in your mouth for the rest of the season, where you're like, oh, I can't believe that's how it ended. What was that about?
Although I consider the New Year's Day special to be the final, because it only aired like 3 weeks later, so it counts as the final in my eyes.
And Resolution is the best New Year's special. It's a genuinely good episode.
It's so good.
Yeah, but Jodie, this conversation about like, what are you thinking about? Why don't you communicate with us? Goes nowhere and gets quickly interrupted by the Judoon firing a big laser onto the Earth to create a sphere, or like a what's the word I'm looking for here? A force field. That's it. Like around Gloucester, and she's like, oh, if I do the flip flab with the dib dab, I'll be able to get into that field. And so she gets into the field, no bother. It's not really a big deal. Don't worry about it. She couldn't just go back in time to before the field landed. No, that'd be crazy.
If this was Russell T Davies, there would be scenes of like news reports being like, there's some sort of force field in the sky. We don't really know what's going on, to make everything feel so much bigger than it is. Whereas, it's just a tiny little city that's been affected, and it just feels so claustrophobic, this episode, I feel like. There's nothing really going on.
The issue is, every episode of Jodie's feels claustrophobic, mainly because of how it's shot. Which is, it's a double-edged sword, because these are better cameras than they've had before. They have a very deep depth of field, so everything is really sharp, but the backgrounds are all really blurry. And when Series 11 first aired, and that first episode came out, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, I was like, holy crap, this show looks amazing now. like because it felt cinematic suddenly, and I was like, wow, the upgrade in the cameras and the lighting is really good. It's really cool. And then every shot is medium close up. For everything. Everything is a medium close-up. And it's like, why are we not getting any wide shots? Why is everybody... Nobody feels like they're standing in the same room either. You know, it becomes boring to look at, boring to watch, and feel small. Which is just... It's one of the reasons why I'm hyped for the 60th. Big wide shots. Wow, beautiful.
and also just the future of the show in general with the Disney budget. It's not that much, you know. It's not the 10 million that was reported, but it's significant. It's going to be significant for the show to feel bigger, and that's what the show needs to be like. You know, the Doctor explores space and time. There's so much to explore, and yet Jodie's era is mostly on Earth and mostly in like one shots, you know.
But we then get some fun shots of the Judoon teleporting down into what I assume are various landmarks of Gloucester. I've never been.
It reminds me
really bad-looking bridge, so I was like, nice.
It reminds me of War of the Sontarans, where the Sontarans end up at teleporting to Earth, and there's like one of them standing next to the Beatles statue, or one of them in the chocolate shop. Remember that? Yeah. Chocolate. What an iconic moment. God, that made me so angry. But the Judoon are scanning people and stamping them, and Ruth is like freaking out about it, and she's with some really annoying old lady who's like, oh, you can't do this, and they shoot her knitting needles out of her hands because they were sharp weapons, and they're like, hey, we'll pay you back for that, don't worry about it. But she's like, no, you can't scan me, I'm going to run away, you're a scary rhino guy, because the Judoon take off the helmet to reveal that they are rhinos yet again, in case we didn't catch that. But don't worry, if you missed this, the show will remind you about it again. And the lady runs away, and she runs just down the street, and she hits the barrier to the force field and dissolves. But then very clearly, the town continues on in front of her. Like, very clearly, there is more houses, more streets, and more everything in front of her. So is everybody beyond that point dead? Because the force field is just this tight around the castle. Does the force field only work if you aren't stamped? So if the old lady doesn't get stamped, so she runs away and runs into the force field, so she's dead. But if anybody else ran into that force field, they get through because they're stamped. Is that how it works?
But why?
In the background, people are running around after they get stamped.
Yeah, but why is the force field not surrounding the entire town?
I don't
know. Why is it only surrounding this little area? You know? Why is it only that little area? So if you run out of the area, you just die.
Yeah, these are questions I didn't think about, because the first 2 times I watched this, I actually watched this episode 1.5 times because I could not sit through an entire sitting of this episode because it's just so dull. The first time I watched it, I had to watch it twice in two halves, and I just watched it again this morning, and I'm like, I've had enough of this episode. It's just going nowhere. It's just spinning its wheels. But yeah, the first 2 times I watched this episode, I just thought the Judoon shot her because it doesn't make sense for the force field to be there. I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. But no, she very clearly runs into a force field. And then they scan Ruth, and they're like, oh, you're a human, and they mark her hand, which is some fun bit of us as an audience to stop us guessing that, oh, maybe she's the alien, when we've just been told, no, she is in fact human. So the idea that she could possibly be an alien, let alone the Doctor, is just nowhere near your brain at this point, which is, again, some very fun bit of writing. I think they do a good job hiding the Ruth stuff. They do a really bad job with the red herring of her boyfriend, though, where it's like, oh, this guy, I'm totally innocent, as he's like looking his eyes left and right like a fucking cartoon, you know?
I do wonder if there's a point where we were supposed to think the old lady was the monster, because if you remember the first time we meet the Judoon,
like the Judoon episode, yeah.
It was a creepy vampire lady who sucks blood through a straw. Yeah. She was a great character.
Episode.
Bring her back.
Terrifying character. I was
like it's such
out of me as a kid.
It's such a goofy concept, and it works so well in that episode. Oh yeah, some rhino men teleport a hospital to the moon, and there's a lady sucking blood through a
With
straw.
a straw. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. That's what Doctor Who should be. Then boyfriend man is talking to Alan, and he gets a really bad cake, and then he just kind of leaves when he discovers that there's aliens going about. The doctor shows up.
Yeah, the cake reads "You can do better," which became a big meme. People referring to Chibnall, you can do better, Chibnall, you know. But the doctor conveniently shows up in the kitchen of his cafe where she's supposed to be because she can't discover parts of the plot for herself. She has to be led through by sheer coincidences.
Yeah, it's cool. What I like is everybody goes out running through the door, like Jodie, Ryan, and Yaz. They go out the door like, oh, we've got to go find these Judoons. But Graham gets immediately distracted by the cakes, and he's like, oh, look at these cakes. Nice, I'll have one of these. And then he looks at the cake that says, you can do better. He says, that's the worst cake I've ever seen. With just so much like compassion and comedy to the man that made the cake. And then he vanishes. He just gets teleported away by Captain Jack. And it's perfect. It's the perfect Graham scene. I love him. He's a great companion. Like,
do you think his actions here are why Captain Jack gets confused? Does Captain Jack see this? Because if you remember the Saints of Bell John's, the Bells of St. John's, the first episode where Clara was reintroduced, the Doctor gets distracted by cake in the same way. You know, in the cafe. I do wonder if Captain Jack was confused by this.
Yeah, possibly. Then we get some like panicked stuff between Ruth and her boyfriend, where they're like, "Oh my God, did you see the rhinos? By the way, there's rhinos here. People."
And if you aren't aware, they are rhinos. Just before that, the space rhinos come into the cafe, and the man running the cafe is like, "Oh my God, space rhinos!" Like,
yeah.
Why do we need the same? Why do we need to know it's space rhinos within a minute, twice within a minute? It's just
in case you're confused as to where they came from. You're like, oh my God, why are those regular rhinos in costumes and walking on two legs? Oh, they're from space. Now I get it.
Like there's so many lines in the Chibnall era which feel like they're meant for Big Finish, you know? Like later on when Jodie and the Fugitive Doctor are getting transported by the Judoon, you have to have the Fugitive Doctor be like, oh my God, we're getting transported by the Judoon. Like,
yeah, it's a lot of telling and not showing. That's an issue that Chibnall's era ran into a lot as well, where it's they just, and this is one of the issues we had as well with like the Master's monologues and stuff, where it's you're telling us all of this stuff, but you're not actually showing us this, and this is a visual medium. Like, you have characters being like, oh, this is happening right now. This is what's going on right now. Look at this thing that's happening right now, but they're not, you're not doing any visual storytelling. Like, we can see that this is a rhino man. We don't need to be told that this is a rhino man, you know?
And also, just the amount of questions that get asked in this episode. Take a shot for each question and you'd probably die. You know? So many questions.
Oh, there's a lot going on. Also, the cake man Alan, one of the Judoon like knocks over some coffees and stuff, picking up his dossier, and he's like, "Oi, you shouldn't do that!" And then he pushes the giant space rhino that's got a laser gun, which is the dumbest thing for a character to do, I think, possible. And then he just gets shot and died, which is a really great way of writing off this character because he sucks and adds nothing to the episode except, I guess, point the Judoon towards the boyfriend guy, even though they would find him anyway by just searching for him because they need to scan every human that's in the town. So I guess he just sped up their process a little bit because the Judoon's process of scanning people seems extremely random. It's just the first person they can grab. They can grab someone, awesome, I'll scan you. There's no coordination to it. You know?
Yeah, and that's another problem with the Chibnall era. Sometimes characters just exist to continue the plot. Oh yeah, you have to go this way. Like when in Flux, when they had to go up the mountain to meet the old hermit man. And the hermit man is like, oh yeah, go fetch your dog. That's what you need to do. You need to find the dog.
The old man that dies on Gallifrey, so Jodie can run away.
No, I'm talking about a different
I'm talking about a different character,
Yeah.
a different old man. Like his whole existence was so that Jodie didn't have to die on Gallifrey. He was there to be like, oh, I'll do it instead. Like
yeah, Chibnall had 2 series finals in a row where an old hermit helped the Doctor and the companions.
Yeah. God.
Great stuff.
Jesus Christ. Then we get the scene with Ruth and her boyfriend where it's like, oh my god, aliens are here. Then we get another really boring scene of Jodie meeting the Judoon out of nowhere. She knows that they're going to be outside this house for some reason.
Because
I guess
Lee
followed the
pointed
boyfriend
them.
guy. Yeah.
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 Because Lee pointed,
Yeah,
oh yeah, here's my dossier, go to this house and you'll meet the man that's suspicious. And again, it's just pointing out where the characters need to go. There's no urgency in the episode because they just seem to teleport from place to place, basically. Like, there's no sense of urgency at all in this episode. It's weird.
It is weird, and it is not good. But this is also a scene where, for the briefest of moments, and it's not a thing that happens often in this era of Doctor Who, and when it did happen, like, it lit off a spark inside my heart where I was filled with such overwhelming joy I couldn't really contain myself. But in this scene, Yaz remembers that she's a police officer.
Actually, no, she has to be pointed out.
She gets told that she's a police officer. Yeah. Jodie's like, isn't that right, Yaz? And Yaz is like, oh yeah, of course that's right. Yeah, blah blah.
Yeah.
And
it takes a minute and a half for her to jump in a scene where Jodie's basically like, oh yeah, remember the law that says you can't be on Earth? And then the Judoon are like, oh my god, there's a law, and it feels like should have jumped in there. Use some garble to tell the Judoon to fuck off. And it's so weird.
Yaz being a cop is such, like, it was such a big meme when she was a companion because they never did anything with it.
Yes.
And the few times they did stuff with it, they did nothing. Still, it was just Yaz being like, actually, I'm a police officer. And then she wouldn't do anything about anything else. She would just say that. I think she literally says in this episode, I'm a police officer, as if she's like discovering that fact.
Yeah, because there's so much they could do with her as a police officer. She could help calm down victims of an attack or whatever, or investigate clues and ask leading questions and stuff like that, but we don't do anything with her. It's so weird.
Yeah,
like we did more. Like, they did more with the fact that Bernard Cribbins was a cop in that Doctor Who movie. like a police officer stumbling on a police telephone box was genius for that movie. It's never been done on the show. It's weird.
Well, it's been done now. It's just, Yaz didn't give a shit.
But this scene is just shot reverse shot, and
it's so
there's
boring.
hardly any shot of the Doctor and the Judoon standing together. Like, there's supposed to be like a side shot, I feel like.
There's hardly any shots of Jodie standing next to the companions. Jodie's shot by herself, and the companions are shot together away from the Doctor. It's like, there's like one wide shot where it's like, oh, you guys are standing like 4 feet apart for some reason, it's ridiculous.
This feels like it was shot for COVID. Like 6 months before COVID was even a thing. Like, it's so
it's
weird.
got that Flux feel, in Flux, where it's like, you guys weren't in the same room. This was shot on a green screen. This is shot for shot. You're separate. You're not looking at each other right now.
And the thing about Flux is, I remember Chibnall saying, oh yeah, we had to split up the companions and the Doctor so much because of shooting under COVID restrictions. But he did it all the time in Series 12 anyway. Who cares? like it's not a COVID restriction. It's just you writing Doctor Who.
It It literally happens all the time in this episode, and Jodie does not care. Like in this scene, she's like, "What happened to Graham?" And Ryan's like, "I don't know. He's usually behind us, and I just assumed he was still behind us." And then they're like, "Oh, I guess he's not." And then they move on. They don't go like, "Oh, we need to find Graham now." They just move on. Like,
and also like the teleportation effect is almost the same as the Judoon kill effect. Like the companions could have been killed this entire time, and the Doctor doesn't even consider it for a moment. It's so weird.
It's bad. But hey, do you like all that chemistry the Doctor and Yaz have together? You can feel the romantic tension in the air. I hope they do something about that at some point in this show. You know, it's just those two should really get together.
Oh, Christ.
Then the first big reveal of the episode happens, and I remember being extremely excited when it happened. It was a really, really cool twist. When Captain Jack appears, and I remember most of the Doctor Who fandom being really excited when this happened. This was, of course, very, very shortly before the allegations about Mr. Oh my God, what's his name? John Barrowman. John Barrowman. I had it. I knew it.
This was like a year before, I think, because I remember watching the New Year's Day special, not knowing about the allegations either. When did Noel Clarke? Yeah, April 2021 was when Noel Clarke got accused or whatever. So yeah, John Barrowman wasn't far behind.
Which sucks. It's yucky. I think he's good in this episode for what little he has to do. It's nice to see Captain Jack back. He doesn't have much to do. He's just there being like, "I thought you were the Doctor. Where's the Doctor? Oh, you're not the Doctor? Someone's got to give this message to the Doctor. Okay, bye." That's his entire point in this episode. It's completely it's a cameo for the sake of having a cameo.
Oh God,
honestly. Yeah. But at the time I was like, "Oh yay, Captain Jack, clap, 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 clap," because it was exciting. Because I didn't expect it to come, and it was a genuinely fun twist that gets thrown in to an episode that already has a mental twist. So like that, it already brings your excitement levels up. You know, I think this is one of the reasons why so many people were so positive about this episode when it came out, is because it's like, "Oh my God, one of my favorite characters here. Oh my God, what? This completely changes everything." You're spent the entire time going, "Oh my God, what?" And you're so baffled, you trick yourself into thinking it's good.
That's one of the reasons why the Judoon are in this episode in the first place. Chris Chibnall yeah. Chris Chibnall says they're basically there to hype up the fans, because, you know, when you got the Judoon and then Jack, you think there's no more twists to come. But, you know, I had a feeling this was coming, because, like, 2 days before this episode aired, John Barrowman on Twitter was like, "You should watch Doctor Who this weekend." No reason why, just winky face. It was so obvious. I don't know if you picked up on that, or were you
I
totally
didn't follow
surprised?
I didn't follow John Barrowman on Twitter, so I was completely surprised. I did not know it was coming. I didn't have it spoiled for me. I was just big ball of happy energy. Oh my God, Captain Jack is back.
And you know, when he got asked by Chibnall, when he was interviewed about it, he was like, "Oh wow, at least some people respect the fact that I was Captain Jack. At least some people respect the character." Just basically throwing Moffat under a bus, because Moffat didn't want Captain Jack to come back. There's no reason why he would want Captain Jack to come back. Like
What Moffat tried to do, like, I understand why Moffat didn't want Jack back. One, like, there's nothing really else to do with the character. Once we find out, like, "Oh, you're the face of Bo, you're this immortal dude, you've gone on and had your adventures. What else can we really do with you? Yes. You've had your arc." And then Moffat also wanted to make the show his own thing. Like, you didn't really see that many returning Doctor Who villains besides like Daleks and Cybermen. Even they got updated into Moffat's own designs from the Russell T Davies era. And, you know, he tried to be like, "This is now my show, it's my own thing." So I totally get why he wouldn't want a character that Russell T Davies came up with to come back in a major way. And then Chibnall was like, "Screw that. The Russell T Davies era is the only thing that's getting people to watch, so let's bring them all back."
You say Moffat thought the character arc for Captain Jack was over. I feel the same way, because, you know, you haven't seen it yet, but Torchwood Series 3 is a perfect bow on top of the Captain Jack storyline. And
Bow?
they never...
Bow?
I mean, I don't think anyone ever figures out what to do with Captain Jack after Series 3 of Torchwood. I'm looking forward to cover Series 3 of Torchwood next year with you, because you don't know what it is. I'm excited for you.
Fucking, I have never seen anything from it, so I need to catch up and watch Series 1. I need to watch Series 1 and 2 of Torchwood first.
Yeah, you have until next July. You have until next July.
I'll wait till June. I will wait till June.
But yeah, all the Captain Jack scenes were directed by Jamie Magnus Stone, who didn't direct the episode as a whole, so shot separately with a different director. Barrowman actually faked a house renovation in Cardiff to make it a secret, because he would keep bumping into fans in public, and he wound up tweeting fans for advice on new paint colours, etc. to keep up the ruse. But he realised people would then get suspicious if he actually didn't get a renovation, so he got a renovation in the end.
Amazing.
And in Doctor Who magazine, he was credited as Roy Lester, which is an anagram of Rose Tyler, so that's fun.
That is fun, yeah. But this scene is relatively pointless. It's just him being like, "Oh my God, Graham, you're the Doctor, right?" And Graham's like, "Nope, I'm not." And then he's like, "Oh, yeah. Okay."
Every scene with Captain Jack in this episode is pointless. And then you're like, "Yeah, but he's gonna come back next year in the New Year's Day special."
I bet
and then he does nothing
then.
in that either. Because when he's tied up with 3 companions, and they all stand around and ask questions. As a role of companions in the Chibnall era.
God, the New Year special and Series 12 Revolution of the Daleks. Revolution is fucking atrocious. Absolutely a dismal episode. I
was so looking forward to Revolution of the Daleks, especially after Resolution. Resolution is... we should have done Resolution. You want to stop this episode and just do Resolution?
We'll just go back. Let's watch Resolution instead. Yeah, Resolution is much better than this episode for sure. It's got some fun body horror stuff. This has just got horror because what you're watching is so bad. You're scared. The episode continues as Jodie approaches the flat to Ruth and companion dude's place, and she's like, "Hey, you've got to tell me if you're an alien or not, because the Judoon are going to come and get you in X amount of time." And then she scans them and she's like, "Wait, but you're both human. It says so on my sonic screwdriver that I guess can scan people now. Don't worry about that." And they're like, "Oh, also, I don't know what's going on."
Here's the thing about the sonic screwdriver. Every time a doctor uses the sonic screwdriver, they look at the sonic screwdriver as if there's some sort of screen or something that's telling them the information they need to know. Like, how are they... Like, is it some sort of hologram that only the doctor can see or something?
Maybe it's like the lights flicker in a certain way, you know, when you hold it, and it's like a Morse code type thing. But I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Like the sonic, it's just a dynamic movement. That's all it is.
These are the kind of questions I ask when there's nothing in this scene that I can latch on to, because this scene starts off with the doctor being like, "Oh yeah, everything you just watched in the last minute needs to be re-exposed to you."
I need to tell you. Yeah, I need to tell you everything that happened again.
I mean, if you like, the only information we find out in this scene is that the guy that Ruth is with reads as human as well. That's the only information that we actually kind of get in this little bit here.
Yeah, and we get a very, very brief but fun scene, I guess, with Captain Jack finding out that the doctor's a woman now, where he's just got the biggest grin on his face because of it, and it is like he's having fun with what little stuff he has to do in this episode. It's nice to see. It's fun to watch. It's all right,
but again, it just goes back to the caricature of what Jack has turned into, because we just paused for like 5 minutes for as Matthew went for a drink, and I decided to watch the final scene of Torchwood. Well, one of the final scenes of Torchwood, Children of Earth, where Captain Jack does this massive thing that has big consequences, and every time I see Captain Jack after this, I'm like, "But you just did that thing. That's huge. and it's never really addressed. And it's such a huge thing that happens in Children of Earth that feels like it should be. It feels weird to go back to the jokey, innuendo-filled Captain Jack. It's really weird. And also, Captain Jack does look visibly older here. It's kind of distracting, but I guess you could say, oh yeah, Captain Jack has aged 1,000 years, or whatever. So I guess it's not too distracting.
I mean, the man's going to turn into a giant face. So. Yeah, then we cut back to Jodie, and the Judoon throw a speaker through the window that is like counting down, and I guess it's supposed to be funny. And like at the end of the countdown of the timer, because they're still talking, like it doesn't explode or anything. It's like it starts reading terms and conditions in the background, which I guess is some comedy that's happening, some Judoon based comedy. I hate it. I don't understand why it's there.
They found a box in the house, in the bedroom somewhere, and the box is something that I don't know. I don't even know. I don't care.
Yeah,
the box is something they can track the Time Lords, I guess,
it's a piece of like their TARDIS, or like it's like a memento that's not from this planet that allows them to find them.
But that little plot detail doesn't need to be there, because the Judoon only found Lee because the fucking cafe guy was like, oh yeah, Lee is an alien.
Yeah, but it's like how did they know to check this one random town? Yeah,
oh god.
And this is also the scene where Yaz goes, wait, I'm a police officer, and decides that her and Ryan will be able to distract or postpone the Judoon or do something to calm them down or something, but it doesn't super matter because they go out to the Judoon and they're like, okay, you guys can go inside now, and then they get teleported away up to see Captain Jack, and that's where they remain for the rest of the episode. And
this entire time, because the Doctor's like, okay, meet us back where we're going, because Lee's like, oh yeah, we have to go to the cathedral, is where the next location is, and Yaz and Ryan are like, yeah, we'll meet you back there. And the Doctor doesn't wait at the cathedral. They could have easily just been killed by the Judoon, and the Doctor doesn't even consider it for a moment.
I don't even think there's a moment in the episode, like when they're at the lighthouse, where the Doctor's like, I wonder what happened to Raz and Yai, and I'm kind of worried about that. Like Yaz, Discord must have filtered me there. But they're so, like, she's so caught up in her own stuff that she does not care about the companions at all, which is what you want in a leading character. You want them to be really selfish and mean, and to never develop beyond that. I think there's not enough genocide. I think you need to sprinkle a genocide in there.
Jodie was secretly happy at the thought of maybe her companion being killed. But that's another thing about the Jodie Whittaker era. She goes on a lot of journeys where she finds out more about herself, and it's always separated from the companions. And she never really tells the companions what's going on or anything like that. At the end of this episode, she's like, oh yeah, I met myself. That's all that we really get between the two of them. Like, it feels like the companions should be on the Discovery with her as well, but they never are. And it just feels... Again, there's just no relationship between the companions and the Doctor. It's so strange.
Yeah, and boyfriend guy, when they got the back, he sends off a text that will be slightly important later on, before getting interrupted by the Judoon that come to arrest him. Yaz and Ryan show up to see Captain Jack, and he's like, "Oops, I still didn't get the Doctor. My bad. Oh, gee whiz." It's pointless. And then we meet Time Lord Lady, who is a fun performance, solid actor, boring character, not much to do. She's just like, I'm gonna track down the Doctor, don't tell anybody it's the Doctor, and I'm also gonna shoot this companion guy with this gun now, and now he's dead. Aren't you sad that this random dude is dead that did nothing and contributed 0 things and that you didn't care about?
Yeah, this actor is a good presence, and she's doing the best she can with absolutely nothing. Like, there's no sense of character to this other than, I need to find the Doctor. That's all she has to her.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks. Then in the cathedral, Ruth looks at her text and it's like go to the lighthouse basically. And they walk through this big cathedral before just inexplicably being surrounded by Judoon, which I
Yeah.
guess tracked her. And they're like, actually, we're here for Ruth, and Ruth the entire time is just staring, like nonchalantly, like, oh yeah, you're here for me. Like she's already the Doctor at this point, even though she hasn't got her memories back. But she just says it's instinct, even though that doesn't super make sense. Why didn't why was this instinct? Where was this instinct before? But I guess thinking about the lighthouse is triggered. I'm trying to make sense of garbage here. It doesn't matter. But she karate flips a bunch of the rhinos, space rhinos. Sorry, I need to clarify. They're from space. And,
Yeah, which
and
is which is something we've
it's whatever.
just seen Peter Capaldi do.
We did.
Yeah, we just saw it, and yeah, it's also a reference to the third Doctor doing his karate there. I was going to say something. Even when, David Tennant was using the power of the Watch to disguise himself as human in human nature, he was still able to do doctory things, like when he threw a tennis ball to save a baby from the fallen piano, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was still able to do that because I guess the Doctor's still in there somewhere to keep people safe or whatever. But so I guess that's
Sure.
why. Is this still is this the same technology? I guess it's just not the watch
It's
this time.
no, it's locked up in a fire alarm, but it's the same basic idea, where it's you get rid of the Time Lord by using the machine, and you turn yourself into a human or whatever for a bit. But she beats up all of the rhino dudes, and nothing happens, and she's like, oh, that was weird, wasn't it? And the issue, again, like, watching this the first time, this was a cool scene. This was oh my god, what's happening? But because I know what happens, and I know it goes nowhere, or I know the place that it goes is just atrocious, like, I do not care about what's happening, because I'm like, oh god, yeah, this is happening again. Oh great. Oh yeah, remember this reveal. Remember how excited I was, and remember how disappointed I became. It's like it's just reliving that disappointment, and it makes revisiting this episode so sad, because it was a time of hope. It was a time of joy. It was a time of excitement, which gets so quickly dashed away from you. It's upsetting.
I had the same problem with when Pandora Opens, which we covered last month, where the entire episode is just spinning its wheels until the twist, the big reveal. Except with the Pandora Opens, you get a payoff immediately the next week. With this episode, you're just watching it again, and you're just waiting for the wheels to spin, and then you're reminded, this reveal doesn't really matter. It doesn't really go anywhere. We don't really see the Fugitive Doctor again, apart from like just brief little cameos, like at the end of series 12, she's like in the Doctor's mind palace or whatever. She's like a flashback scene in
She's like
Flux.
In Flux, she's like a flashback / the Doctor's swapping bodies with her at times, and it was
but even in
weird
Flux,
dream
it's
sequence
mostly
stuff.
Jodie. We mostly see Jodie.
Yeah.
And then in Power of the Doctor, she's just a hologram, so we never really see the Fugitive Doctor again. Which, after the series airs, Chris Chibnall's like, I don't have plans to bring back the Fugitive Doctor at all, and it's like, what's the point of bringing in this incarnation of the Fugitive Doctor and not really doing anything with her other than, there's a secret incarnation of the Doctor, because we've already done this. We've done this in 2013 with John Hurt.
He
had a character arc. He had such a great character arc. So you can't really
oh my god, it's straight, like, it's Gallifrey's destroyed again, and also the War Doctor's back. It's just rehashing stuff we've already done. That's a really good point. Yeah,
but you can't just rely on the fact that, oh my god, the audience will be shocked if there's a secret incarnation of the Doctor that came before, because we already done this. Like we were shocked. We were so excited about what this could mean, and then like even in Flux we were excited because fucking the villain Swarm in the first episode is like, oh, I am your oldest enemy, Doctor, because I go way back to when you were a Fugitive Doctor, and we were so excited by that because the potential of the Doctor and the Fugitive Doctor teaming up, maybe. I mean, it just goes nowhere.
A villain that knows the Doctor better than she knows herself. And then it goes nowhere. They do nothing with it. But hey, they had that dude there. What was his name? He had the Amazon mask. The mask you can buy on Amazon for £20.
Oh yeah, the prisoner.
No, passenger. The
Yeah.
passenger. Yes, and he eats the flux. He gobbles it up.
Yeah, he ate the flux after the flux ate most of the galaxy, but don't worry about that.
just remembering, I'm just remembering how that scene actually looks. Like that, visually, that scene is just hilarious.
Oh boy.
Then we get a scene with Captain Jack where he's like, "Oh, I have to go now because of reasons. So I'm going to go now after not doing anything. Tell the Doctor to beware of the lone Cyberman," which is referencing the Haunting of Villa Diodati, which is 1, 2, 3 episodes away and sets up the final for this series in a really ham-fisted way.
Yes.
Because Captain Jack doesn't play into that finale at all. He doesn't show up till the New Year special. He has nothing to do with the lone Cyberman, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. So that leads the question: how did Captain Jack get this information? Maybe he got it from the future. Like, is this a future? Is this from the future? Is this Captain Jack from the future after saving the Doctor from prison? And the Doctor's like, "Oh, thank you so much for warning me about the Cyberman."
And he's like, "Oh yeah, that thing I'll do." Yeah.
Like. That's the only way I can think of it, because I don't understand how Captain Jack gets this information or why he has to pass it on to the Doctor, because in the Haunting of Villa Diodati, it's not really important. Like, the Doctor gives the Cyberman what it wants, and the companions are like, "But Doctor, don't give the Cyberman what it wants, because remember what Captain Jack says."
Don't they? Do they even? Isn't that the episode where they reveal what Captain Jack said? Like,
no,
do they
wait
the 3 episodes?
It's at the end of this episode. They sit around the TARDIS and talk about it.
Yeah.
Because of course we do. But yeah, it plays nothing into it because the Doctor just gives it to them anyway, and it's like, yeah, that's obviously a bad move. You don't need you don't need Captain Jack to tell you to not give the Cyberman what it wants. It's not needed, you know? I can't speak.
No, clearly. Then we get a scene where Jodie is really dumb, where she's like...
Wait a minute. Are you telling me there's a scene where the 13th Doctor does something really dumb?
But it's not like she doesn't do anything dumb. She doesn't connect two very obvious dots when she's like, Ruth. It's like you've got some sort of secret identity. Like something's cloaking who you really are. Like something's hidden away what you are, who you are. Like someone's hiding that from you. And she doesn't click together like, oh, maybe it's this thing that I did when I was hiding and I hid my identity. Maybe you're using the same technology. I'm not saying that you're a Time Lord, because as far as I'm aware, all the Time Lords are dead again. Even though, technically speaking, the Master, as far as I'm aware, never locked Gallifrey into another time bubble, so there could be countless Time Lords that are in their TARDISes escaping Gallifrey when he's turning everyone into Cybermen, so really the Time Lords could come back and it's no real big deal.
Also the Time Lords, the Time Lords fucking time travel, so even if they died on Gallifrey, they can still be from the past. Like, this lady hunting the Fugitive Doctor is from the past and presumably a Time Lord, so it fucking doesn't matter, does it?
No. But Jodie does not put those dots together. That's too hard to do. And she's just like, let's go check out this lighthouse. The lighthouse will be cool. And so they get into a lovely red car and they check out the lighthouse. And it's... God, this episode's almost over, at least.
And what has happened so far? Just a bunch of questions.
Literally, just we're looking for an alien. Why? We're not going to tell you that. Who's the alien? Well, we're not going to tell you that yet, but it's this lady. Oh, cool. Who's this lady? Oh, don't worry, you'll find out. Captain Jack's here. That's the whole episode.
Yeah, Captain Jack is literally just dangling a bunch of keys in front of the audience. Look, we got Captain Jack back. Oh my god, be happy.
The episode continues as the Doctor and Ruth end up in the lighthouse, and they're like, "Oh my god, there's the Green Goblin," but they quickly get rid of him. You can put that together. You can get there. That's not that hard to get together.
Okay. The Lighthouse movie, The Lighthouse. Okay. Because when you say the Green Goblin, I'm thinking of like the split personality kind of thing, but also
no, I mean literally the Green Goblin.
I know what you mean. But there's a whole scene in Spider-Man 1 where he's talking to him with the mask, and I'm thinking about being like a parallel with Ruth kind of discovering herself and. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and then she attacks New York City.
Yeah, I mean, you can see her butt as she's gliding around.
The Doctor leaves Ruth to explore the house as she goes around scanning stuff, and the Doctor's like, "Oh, there's something weird going on. Why would you leave a gravestone blank?" As she's looking at the grave of what she presumes to be Ruth's parents. Mm-hmm. And then she just she's like, "Oh, she didn't write down beloved mom and dad here. I'm going to dig up their grave." But I guess that's just par for the course for Jodie's Doctor, really, morality speaking. Ruth, otherwise, she gets called towards the fire alarm, which is whispering to her much like the stopwatch whispers to David Tennant when it's like, "You're the Doctor."
And also when it whispers to Yana, which is my favorite scene of that episode, Utopia. Just every time he looks at the watch, there's some light whispering. Oh, there's some great shots in this episode, by the way, where Jodie Whittaker is on top of the lighthouse, and you get a drone shot of it going around the lighthouse. It's really hard to not make this look pretty because it is a stunning location.
It's a good location.
It could easily be from an episode of Broadchurch.
Yeah, it's a good location. It's a good day as well. The weather's very nice, so it's all very bright and blue. Probably shot in 2019 summer, I would imagine. Then Jodie digs up the grave really fast. It's a really shallow grave for the TARDIS that's buried for some reason. And it's revealed that it is a TARDIS. It's a police box, which makes Jodie very confused and makes all of us at home even more confused. Because it doesn't make sense. And this was a complaint. This was the major complaint when this episode aired, which is really funny looking back that this was the thing that people were complaining about, with what's to come. But they were complaining, how does the TARDIS look like a police box? That doesn't make sense with the timeline that they set up. And it doesn't make sense because they didn't think about it.
This is one of those things that, when you're doing a story where the Doctor uncovers information about her past, you have to keep it vague enough because the show is still called Doctor Who, and Chibnall reveals too much. But here he's not revealing a key bit of information because we need to know why it looks like a place box, because if we are led to believe that this incarnation of the Doctor is before the William Hartnell Doctor, so it shouldn't look like a place box. Why would it look like a place box in modern? I guess she landed the ship a while back, so maybe 1999, I think she said. So it definitely wouldn't look like a place box. No.
Yeah.
And also, if she landed in 1999, does that mean the Ruth Doctor ages in real time? So she started off as like a 23-year-old, and then she.
That's a good question because when you make yourself human using that machine, you do make yourself entirely human. You get one heart, so presumably, you would age as well, because that was the whole big thing in the Family of Blood, isn't it? Is the Doctor, John Smith wanted to age and become an old man and raise kids and stuff like that, and we see that life he would live. So she would have aged 20-odd years since.
Sorry, I just went on a tangent there, but the TARDIS is something that feels like it should be explained, because otherwise it just feels like a massive gaping plot hole. Why does it look like a police box? And this is something that the comic, the Fugitive Doctor comic, kind of explains. Kind of. So this is from Warped Factor, who kind of describe what happens in the comics. Why is the Fugitive Doctor TARDIS shaped like a 1960s police box? Easy. In the comics, she arrives there in 1962, and the TARDIS assumed that the big blue box formed there. From there, it's easy to assume that at some later point, when the Time Lords or Tactioon removed the Doctor's memory of her past, the police box TARDIS was reset to a cylindrical base shape of all native TARDISes, and Clara Oswald would eventually lead the Hartnell Doctor to it.
No.
So yeah, maybe it just like, I'm on Earth. The TARDIS is just like, yeah, I'm on Earth. I really like that blue box form. And every time I'm on Earth, I'm gonna use it because I just feel sexy in it, you know?
I hate that. I hate that so much. I hate that so much. That's really dumb.
But it's like the only plausible explanation.
It's the only way it could possibly make sense, but I do hate it. And I guess the issue that they ran into with the episode is, how do we communicate that this is the TARDIS without Jodie going inside it straight away?
What if the lighthouse was the TARDIS and Jodie's exploring the lighthouse? She opens the door,
keeps going,
and holy shit, there's a control ship
center. Yeah,
like how perfect would that be? It's like
the lighthouse being the TARDIS honestly makes way more sense. That's genuinely a much better idea. Although, does the chameleon circuit allow it to be that big? Because like when we saw the chameleon circuit get fixed in that episode we covered fucking forever ago, like it's everything stays roughly the same size. It maybe gets a bit smaller when it turns into like a cabinet and stuff like that, but
I mean it turned into a house.
It never turns into. Did it turn into a house?
Remember at the end of this season, the Doctor gets one of the TARDISes from Gallifrey.
Oh, I guess yeah. Also the Doctor got a diner and gave it to Clara. So screw it, make it the lighthouse. The lighthouse makes way more sense. That would have been a cool reveal. You're right, but I guess they also wanted the Doctor away from hearing the transformation of Ruth into the Fugitive Doctor.
But she could be deep into the TARDIS and not just here, like the TARDIS.
Yeah, she like there's like a floorboard. She's like a floorboard that's like cracked. She opens it up and it leads to some stairs, and she keeps going down and down. It gets deeper and more deeper than she'd ever think it could possibly go. And then there's a set of doors. These doors look vaguely familiar. This feels strange. Opens it up. Oh my god, it's the interior of a TARDIS. What? Like that, yeah, that's a way better reveal. You are correct. That is a much better reveal. Now I'm angry that it's not the reveal. Like... and
the idea of an alien spaceship turning into a lighthouse and also having shape-shifting aliens was what My Parents Are Aliens did in its final season, where at the end of... It's kind of a Scrubs situation where the show kind of ended and... most of the kid characters went away in that show. It's about these foster kids who get adopted by aliens. And at the end of season 8, I think it was, funnily enough, the same season where Scrubs tried to end their show, they say goodbye to all the characters, and then CITV, which was the channel that ran the show, was like, we need another season. So at the beginning of season 9, they wind up at like a beach town. They crash land on Earth yet again. They get their memories erased of all the last 8 seasons for some reason, which was terrible. I hated that. And then the spaceship turns into a lighthouse, and that's where season 9 happens. Yeah. It's a good show. We should cover it. It's vaguely adjacent to Doctor Who, kind of.
Never. But yeah, no, I like Lighthouse TARDIS. # Lighthouse TARDIS. Give it to us, Chibnall. Retroactively go back and edit this episode.
George Lucas it. We obviously find out here that Ruth is the Fugitive Doctor, and as we kind of discussed earlier on, it wasn't planned. Chibnall had no intention for another Doctor twist. This is him speaking here. We had a story, and Vinay and I were talking about a story. And then I just called him up one day and said, you know the story? What if that's the Doctor? And he sort of sat and looked at me like, what? And so he was the first person to know. And the moment we started talking about it, and we worked really closely together in a really great way, it was irresistible. It was something that came about in conversations. I was thinking more towards the final, and then it became, well, there are some thoughts that once you have them, they become irresistible. And then Chibnall added the Judoon into the episode as complete misdirect to keep the new Doctor a secret. So this is just a last-minute addition, and it feels like a last-minute addition because...
It feels like they changed the entire episode. What
Yes.
was this episode without the Doctor or the Judoon? Like...
Yes, that's my problem.
Captain Jack kidnaps the companions, says the Cybermen are coming, then the credits roll. Like...
Yeah, like Chris Chibnall just hijacked this episode. I really want to see the original draft, but from the sounds of it, before the Doctor was planned, they were trying to set up more towards the final. And then obviously he gets the idea of the Fugitive Doctor, which never really comes back, obviously, because as we talked about, the Fugitive Doctor doesn't really get an arc, and the Fugitive Doctor is just kind of dropped.
The Fugitive Doctor sets up the final, I guess, in a vague, like, because the timeless child, like, ending is like, you've lived so many lives, you're a weird alien freak, woo, and like this is proof that the Doctor lived lives that they don't know about, you know, that this is that, like, oh my god, what I'm seeing is true, but it's spoiling that reveal before the final episode.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. Yeah.
Then when you get after this episode, Chris Chibnall was like clearing the air a little bit, and he was like, "Yeah, that's definitely a previous incarnation of the Doctor," which kind of removes so much of the mystery here because a lot of fans were still speculating it could be a future Doctor or something, but Chris Chibnall kind of ruined his own final because the final revealed that the Doctor has had many previous lives, which we kind of already knew from Chris Chibnall revealing it's a prior Doctor.
Yeah, I am curious as to what this episode is before Chibnall gets this idea. That is because it surely it's just a different episode of Doctor Who completely.
I presume it would still be an alien fugitive and just them being hunted by a different alien species and the Doctor trying to help out, which is basically the same idea, but it removes all of the tension, all the twists.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe it's for the better. But they teleport into the Fugitive Doctor's TARDIS somehow, and I really like this interior TARDIS. It's very classic Who, which I guess is the signifier that this is a past version of the Doctor, because this is before they got the budget for the 2005 show to make their TARDIS interior. So they made...
Another theory that was going around at this time was this must be a season 6B Doctor. If you don't know the season 6B Doctor, it's basically between the end of the War Games and the start of Spearhead from Space, the Time Lords send the second Doctor on exile. He's like they send the Doctor to do different missions, and the theory that was going around at this time was the second Doctor regenerates into Ruth, which is why the division is all part of it. You know, going on different missions and all that. Which feels like it would have been such a better twist. I don't know about you.
I guess so, but also, I guess like the one thing that stops someone wanting to do that is if you've only watched brand new Doctor Who and you're only familiar of classic Who retroactively, you would have no idea what it means when someone says season 6B.
Yeah,
you'd be like, what are you talking about? And like that would it just complicate. Like it's way more easy for an audience to digest. Oh, this is before the first Doctor, rather than before the second and the third Doctor, there was another second Doctor. He went off and he did a bunch of stuff secretly. Shh, don't tell anybody. And then he regenerated into a bunch of other Doctors. By the way,
you know, we kind of introduced the War Doctor in the same way, where a lot of people think the War Doctor was the first Doctor. They think the show started with Gallifrey being destroyed in the first place. Like, that's something I saw on Reddit and I shared with you at one time.
But like
people
like there's no accounting for idiocy, but like the majority of people understand where the War Doctor takes place in the timeline of Doctor Who. I think they explain that very clearly because they explicitly show you.
But you know, some fans, you know, and Chibnall's especially, like these fans won't understand what's going on, so I need this line when the Judoon are transporting the TARDIS onto the ship. I need a line where a fugitive doctor says that. I need it explained in explicit detail, even though every fucking idiot would understand what's going on.
It is hilarious when we see the tractor beam pick up the TARDIS and pull it up into the sky, and then overdubbed we hear the fugitive doctor be like, "Oh my god, the Judoon have a tractor beam on us and they're taking us into their ship," as we're watching that happen, and it is it's atrocious. It's really bad.
Like, why is Chibnall writing audio description for the blind inside of the episode itself?
He's just inclusive. He's an inclusive guy. I appreciate that, really. But this is also where the two doctors confirm that, yes, you are the Doctor. It's basically just a back and forth of assuring us, the audience, that what we're seeing is true and we're not being lied to right now. This is 100% the Doctor, and we need to just accept that and move on. Which I think surprisingly a lot of people did. Like, I don't think there was that much pushback on the fugitive Doctor, and I think it just really speaks to the performance. I don't remember the actor's name. The lady that plays the fugitive Doctor. Jo Martin, that's it. Yeah, like the performance Jo Martin gives, like, she's incredible as the Doctor. I love her entire vibe. Like, her attitude, her comedy, her outfit is spectacular as the Doctor. And I think it just, like, that really, like, people believed that she was the Doctor immediately. They're like, oh my god, yeah, that's insane, that's crazy, I want to know more about you. And we're just sad that we never do. Except she's got that dog best friend. She's best friends with a dog man. Best friends with a dog man. He's poisoned in his brain.
And if he talks about being best friends with the Doctor, he will die, I guess.
Yeah. But he's also best friends with Dan. Genetically or something.
Yes, I saw the fan art. I saw the art. You remember after Flux aired and John Bishop broadcast furry fan art on national television?
I love it. I love it so much.
Of his
Evil
character.
Dan is real. Evil Dan is real.
But going back to the fugitive Doctor's outfit, I really love it. It's like an Edwardian kind of costume, but underneath that is just loud colours, like the Doctor usually has. I guess the Sixth Doctor was the first one to have really loud colours, but such a great touch. And, you know, Jo Martin was really proud of herself for being Doctor Who. She was like, there's a quote somewhere where she's like, finally, a lot of black geeks come up to me and they're just so happy about the fact that they're being represented as the Doctor. Like, that's something she was really proud of. And it's a shame she only gets like 15 minutes total screen time as the Doctor.
Yeah. She's got the audio dramas coming at least. I'm sure they're going to be great.
Hopefully.
Big Finish tend to do well.
And will the audio dramas explore any questions that we still have about the fugitive Doctor, about why it looks like a police box, or will it end up being like the
Though, I mean, like, it is Big Finish. They do really obscure questions like that. You know, they do grab onto things where it's like, that doesn't make sense, let's run with it. So they might actually explain it.
Like, Big Finish are doing an audio series about the season 6B stuff, which I need to listen to. I want to, after we do the War Games next year, I will probably listen to them. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Inside the Judoon ship, we come face to face with the other Time Lord lady, whose character name I don't know. What's the name of this Time Lord lady?
Gat? Something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's Gat.
Yeah, sure, whatever. But this entire conversation they have is, again, just explaining that Jodie is the Doctor and also Ruth is the Doctor, and how could that be? Oh my god, the timelines, blah blah blah. That conversation we've heard 10 million times.
Yeah,
I'm really bored this time.
And you know, we saw this scene before in the next Doctor, where the Cybermen are going up against David Morrissey, and David Tennant's like, but scan me too, scan me, I am also the Doctor. It's the same scene.
Yeah. Same episode, basically. Jodie also tells this Time Lord lady Gat that all the Time Lords are dead, by the way. Gallifrey's destroyed, so what you're doing right now is pointless, and you should instead be like a good guy and focusing on bigger, wider issues like how do we save Gallifrey, because this is a terrible thing. And that lady's like, wow, you're so right. And then she dies because she fires a gun that backfires on herself and kills her. And we never hear or speak of this lady again. So 10 out of 10. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good
you
stuff.
could have had something really interesting here, like some political intrigue about why they would want Gallifrey to be restored or anything like that. Like give us some Gallifrey political stuff. Like that'd be great.
Yeah.
Like just anything that gives us some interest in what Gallifrey is at this point. I just don't care. And also, you could have had a good recurring villain with an actor, but. You kill her off after she stands about and just does nothing.
Does nothing. And then Ruth tells all the Judoon to go away, and they do go away, and that's that problem solved. And then she goes off on her merry adventures, and Jodie goes back to the TARDIS very depressed, sitting down, and she goes back to Gloucester for 5 seconds to meet up with Yaz and Ryan, and they're like, we're not dead, by the way. And she's like, wait, were you guys not with me the whole time? Whoops. Then they go back to the TARDIS.
Yaz and Ryan are like, we just got a message from Captain Jack. And then we cut to the TARDIS where Graham is delivering the message. Where Graham is, I presume the cafe again. But why don't Yaz and Ryan tell the Doctor this important information on the walk to the TARDIS?
We have a message for you, Doctor, from the Captain Jack, but Graham really wants to tell you. So
and then they just walk to the cafe and then walk to the TARDIS. So it's like 10 minutes of just walking around in silence.
And then Jodie sits down at the steps and she's like, okay, you can tell me now. I'm ready to listen. It's terrible. But they gloss over pretty quick the Captain Jack stuff, and then also Jodie's like, hey, the Ruth was me, by the way, and everyone's like, what does that mean? And she's like, fucking who gives a shit? And they're like, oh, you're right. And then the credits roll.
So we had a question of why does Jodie still remember her encounter with Ruth? Because once you step away from a previous incarnation, you forget everything. It's the way the show usually works. You just had a scene of the Master and Missy in last week's episode we covered, where we talked about the same thing, and then Chibnall forgets about it. It's cool.
It's a really big thing to forget about as well, because it's such a since Classic Who that's been a thing, hasn't it? Like they didn't remember it in Classic Who, so and Chibnall's a big fan of Classic Who. How did he forget this?
And the problem is, if Jodie Whittaker forgets about her encounter with Ruth, then there's no character arc, because she won't want to look for more answers. Like he wrote himself into a corner.
And also, it will constantly, like, every episode where there's revealed that she had a secret past life is going to be brand new information for Jodie, where she's going to be like, whoa, wait, I have a secret past life? There's another version of me? And then she'll forget it when she leaves, and then she'll discover it again. She'll be like, whoa, I have a secret past life? Like, it's going to be a vicious cycle.
It's like 50 First Dates.
Yeah.
But this scene kind of addresses a character or a plot arc that I wanted out of this season of the show, where the companions do sit around and are like, Doctor, you've been keeping this a secret from us, you need to be open with us, we are here to help and all that. But it never really pays off, because if you remember at the end of the Halloween apocalypse, Yaz is like, but Doctor, you're always keeping secrets from us, you need to tell us what's going on. It never resolves itself. The Doctor is never open with her companions, and it's still always an issue I have with the Jodie Whittaker era, because this is a season and a half in, and there's just no relationships going on.
Yeah, it's miserable. But hey, the Doctor and Yaz are going to get together inexplicably, so You feel the chemistry they have as they don't do anything. We also get a really funny tease at the end of this episode to set up Praxius, which is the episode that would have came out the week after this. And what a fucking atrocious episode that is. I think that's the worst episode of Series 12. Oh, it's up there with Orphan 55. Like, they're neck and neck, honestly. But,
oh god, there is a lot of Earth episodes this season.
There is indeed.
What do we have? What do we have this season? I need to...
Spyfall 1 and 2, Orphan 55, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, Fugitive of the Judoon, Paraxius. So that is out of the first 6 episodes, 5 of them set on Earth.
All of them set on Earth. Orphan 55 is Earth.
In Earth as well? Amazing.
Yes.
Okay.
Remember
so
the twist at the end?
Episodes.
It was Earth all
along. Oh
along.
my god, yeah. Jesus Christ. Holy shit. Oh my god, that's such a bad episode. That's such a bad episode. I forgot that was the twist. And it was like, and that's the episode that ends where it's like, this doesn't have to be the future if you recycle. The Haunting of Villa Diodati, that's on Earth. Can You Hear Me? That's in Sheffield and Syria, and also Deep Space, but still Earth. Ascension of the Cyberman, that's on Earth. The Timeless Children, that was Earth, and then Gallifrey?
Yeah.
I don't remember. But yeah, like the whole season's on Earth.
And the whole season's on Earth, but different countries as well, because next episode is on 3 different continents for some reason.
It's where the really funny video, the iconic YouTube video came out, where it's like, oh, I'm the Doctor and I'm in Peru. Oh, and now I'm in Madagascar. What a massive budget we have. Like...
but it's the same thing with fucking Spyfall. It's in England, I mean, it's in Australia. It's like...
For no reason, it doesn't add anything to the episode,
no.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's...
bad. Just bad. Just
anyway,
some bad TV.
That was Fugitive.
Thank God this episode's over. Thank God it's the end of this episode.
Good Lord.
I'm not a fan of Fugitive of the Judoon. Revisiting it, I would rate it probably like a 3 out of 10. If I was to go back and recast my vote in that forum, I think I would give it a 3 out of 10.
Oh yeah.
And it's partly not the episode's fault. This is an episode that suffers from a lack of conclusion for the things it sets up. You know, like the episode as a bottle, experiencing it for the first time is exciting. The episode after knowing where everything goes is disappointing and upsetting. And neither reason are the episode's fault at itself. At its core, this episode is really basic and kind of bland. You know, and it's like whatever. It's like a whatever episode that had some big ideas that go nowhere.
Yeah. It forgets to be an episode of Doctor Who. It's just all set up. Whereas, you know, the Pandorica opens as part 1 of a 2-part story, and the second part really delivers or not. Whereas this is just like, this is a single episode of Doctor Who, and it's just setting up stuff but never really pay off. It forgets to have any character arc. I don't feel for Ruth or Lee or any of the companions or even the Doctor. The Doctor basically just stands around being like, what? I have a secret past, and it's what she does all season. From here on out.
She does all next season as well.
And I think I'd probably say it's a 3 out of 10 as well. It's like some good shots here and there, some good performances from Joe Martin, and it's a shame it's from the writer from The Demons of the Punjab, because that episode was really gripping, really emotional stuff, and this got hijacked by Chris Chibnall.
It did indeed, and that's really sad. And heyo, at least Doctor Who might be good again. It won't
Fingers
be.
crossed.
It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be. What if it's bad though? What if it's bad? Next week we are looking at the news, as it is the end of October somehow already. Jesus Christ. And it's been it's been actually a massive month in Doctor Who news. There's there's definitely some stories we need to cover. So look forward to that. There's been some shenanigans happening, some silly shenanigans. So
I'm looking forward to putting together this document because there's so much to dive into. And most of next week's episode will be like a preview of what is to come from the 60th anniversary program, and we've got documentaries that just got announced, and the specials itself. We still don't know the dates. Fingers crossed that we don't have to have any filler.
Yeah, God, I don't know what we're gonna use for filler if we need filler. That's gonna be annoying.
I've got an idea, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. But hey, that's the end of this episode at least. We will see you next week with the news. You can follow us on YouTube, where you can watch this podcast in video form at youtube.com/@whowatcheswhopod. Sorry, we've been recording for like 3 hours straight. You can see our lovely faces in video form. We're also available in audio form wherever you get podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. There's an RSS feed to plug us into your podcast app of choice. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/whowatcheswho and on x.com, formerly known as Twitter, at watchesdoctor, though like who uses that site anymore. Until then, will see.
I know the name of one person who's using that site at the moment, but it hasn't been on for a while.
Until then, we will see you next week. Bye.